What's the most satisfying time office rules backfired on someone? I work in launch quality at a mid-sized manufacturing company in the US, and for a long time, our office looked like a scrapyard. Piles of parts, prototypes, and paperwork covered every available surface. It wasn't even our fault. The sales department had gotten into the habit of shipping all their samples and launch materials to us instead of their own areas. They'd drop off 25 parts, grab a few to show customers, and just never come back for the rest. This went on for over a year, and no one seemed to care. As long as sales got their bonuses, our mess didn't matter. Then COVID hit, and the few of us who had to come in were surrounded by towers of abandoned projects. It was frustrating, but we were used to being ignored. Then our new boss arrived. He came from heavy automotive, tough, direct, and used to long hours. But the guy actually stood by his team. He noticed the mess immediately, asked about it, and when we told him sales had been dumping everything here for years, he just sighed. "All right," he said, "I'll look into it." A few months later, the company president finally visited after more than a year away. The moment he saw the state of the office, he blew a gasket. He cornered our new boss and tore into him for the mess, even though it started long before he arrived. "Fix it," he said, "and I want this office spotless and professional." So my boss came to me and said, "Write me a process for how materials come in and out of this office. Shipping, storage, disposal, everything. I want it done by the end of the week." I wrote a simple, organized policy, labeled shelves, logs for incoming shipments, disposal protocols. When I handed it in, he made 2 additions. We're not inventory clerks. If sales wants to ship here, they need approval from me or production. Otherwise, it's their problem. If anything sits here for more than a week, we toss it. Every Friday, he had me order new shelves, assigned maintenance to help, and sent the final policy up the chain. The president approved it immediately. 3 weeks later, the office looked better than it had in years. Clean, labeled, and organized. The president was thrilled. But we all knew someone from sales would ignore the new rule eventually. And sure enough, it didn't take long. One of the senior sales reps, a guy known for dumping work on others, shipped a full prototype order to our office. These parts were for a high-value client, tied to a 6-figure contract that could lead to millions more in sales. I sent him a polite reminder about the policy. No reply. Friday cleanup came, so my boss called him directly, straight to voicemail. "Okay then," my boss said. "Put his parts on his desk and email him one last reminder." I did. Monday rolled around, still nothing. So my boss hit reply all to my email, copying the sales VP and the president, saying the rep had until Tuesday morning to claim his parts before they'd be tossed, as per policy. Tuesday came and went. The rep didn't show. My boss nodded to me and said, "Trash them." So I did. The next morning my phone rang. It was the sales guy, absolutely losing it. He was shouting about how I'd cost him a major deal and demanding to know who gave me the authority to throw out his parts. I tried to explain the policy, but he was too busy yelling. That's when my boss stepped out of his office. He took one look at my face, walked over, and quietly took the phone from my hand. Then he said, calm but firm, "You will never speak to my people like that again." There was a pause. The rep must have still been yelling. And then my boss said, "I'm hanging up now. The next call you get will be from the VP of operations to schedule a meeting about your behavior." Then he hung up and told me to ignore any future calls from him. He handed me his credit card and said, "Order dinner for the team. You've earned it." Later that day, he shut his door for what was clearly a heated call. We couldn't make out the words, but we could hear the tone. A couple hours later, HR sent out 2 company-wide emails, one about mandatory training on following company policy, and another about professional communication. When my boss finally emerged, he looked tired, but content. "I'll never understand why people think it's smart to mess with the folks who write the rules," he said. Then he smiled slightly. "Oh, and your assignment for Friday is to stay home." We never got an apology from the sales guy, but his tone changed overnight. He was suddenly polite, responsive, and eager to cooperate. Word eventually spread that missing that prototype cost him his quarterly bonus, his only one that year. As for my boss, I think he had to take some tough meetings afterward, but he never once blamed us. The rule stayed in place, the office stayed clean, and nobody's dared to dump parts on us since.